Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast by TVC22 based in Clarence, Rockland. I'm your host, Thomas Stockting. Today we're going to be looking at a local company here in the region of Prescott Russell, and in particular because they have been the beneficiary of a grant from the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario. This agency aims to help progress in an innovative way our local companies in the most populous region of Ontario, being this southern sector here. And very fortunately for Prescott Russell, it is one of the companies in our region who has benefited this time. The company is called Muskoka Cabinet Company, and joining me today is the president, Luke Elias. Thank you very much for joining me, Luke. How are you?
Fine, thank you, and thank you for having me, Thomas. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, absolute pleasure to have you, Luke. So thank you again, as I said, thank you very much for joining. We're going to get onto this investment that you've received and how it's going to be utilized and how it's going to benefit the company as well as hopefully the region in an economic sense too. But before we even go on to that, I think it's very important to sort of touch on who Muskoka Cabinet Company are. I have a few little tidbits in front of me, such as established in 1985 and being a cabinet company, does what it says on the tin kind of thing. But there is a little bit of a twist to it and a very forward-thinking and technologically advanced company as well. So if you could just give the listener a quick rundown as to who Muskoka are.
Okay, so we're a manufacturer of residential cabinetry. Of course, we're located in Alfred. We service new home builders, multi-residential high-rise projects. We have a dealer network. We export to the U.S. And as you mentioned, we've been around for quite some time. We consider ourselves more of a high-tech company that just happens to make cabinets. And so this part of the FedDev funding, of course, was to further advance our technology and equipment so that we could, carry forward and push forward with the technology.
Absolutely. When I was looking into it, you're an Industry 4.0 enabled manufacturer, which might as well have been a totally different language to me. Could you break down sort of what that means? Because that really speaks to how advanced technologically wise the company actually is.
So Industry 4.0 is all about connectivity, connecting every aspect of a company, whether it be sales and marketing, purchasing, what's going on the factory floor, in particular, the machinery, how processes are communicating. Traditionally, in the wood manufacturing industry, you'd have standalone departments. There'd be a table saw that's cutting an edge band or edge banding the parts, and maybe a finishing booth, etc. And these are all operating independently. Industry 4.0 is all about connecting, communicating, and keeping constant measurement of the factory matrix and exactly what is going on in every aspect of the company at any one time, gathering the data and communicating it and scheduling with it, and performance and all types of matrix.
Yeah, when I was having a little dive into it, some of the other companies that really spring out when you were looking into other 4.0 enabled manufacturers, you've got things like Amazon and Toyota. So yeah, as you say, a very advanced company that, as you say, just happens to be making cabinets as well. Where does that passion come from? Are you the founder yourself? How did this kind of this cabinet making come into it? Where was the passion?
So the company was originally called Centre Cuisine Thibodeau in Alfred, and it was started by the Thibodeau family back in 1974. And I purchased it in 1989, and I hadn't really, until I went to my first industry trade show, where I got a taste of some of the software that was available for our industry. Because when I bought the company, it was very low tech. As I mentioned earlier, a table saw not, and when I went to my first trade show, that's when I saw some of the software and technology that was out there that could possibly help us. And I don't know, I just got the bug and been pushing ever since.
So is this something that's always interested you? I mean, we spoke to the owner of LTR Industries in Ottawa,
Yes.
Brian Vlaming, and he described you as a very smart guy, and he even said that you've written some of your own software as well. So is that kind of like what got you into this? Were you always sort of like looking towards that technological advancement side? Because I mean, like late 80s, early 90s was that real boom towards software and computers. So like, did you come in and go, I'm going to make some cabinets and I'm going to be hands-on? Or did you come in and always think like, oh, let's see what happens with this?
Well, I came in and I wanted to, labor-intensive, mundane tasks, which this industry is full of, it seemed ripe for automation and technology. And you mentioned the software. We actually have a sister company called Smart MRP Inc., which is our software arm, which is a company that specializes in automation tools for the woodworking industry, and we actually sell our technology and software to other companies. We have been doing that since probably about 10 years now, when we formally formed Smart, and we've been extensively working towards solving the issues in the wood industry and what's happening particularly on the manufacturing floor. I mean, most ERP systems that businesses integrate in their company evolve around the business aspect and purchasing and performance matrix and probably estimating and shipping and all that kind of thing. But we've really taken it to the next level, where we specialize in radio frequency identification, RFID technology, where we're tracking parts on the shop floor as they go through all the processes. We have these RFID readers, just like Walmart has and Disney has and Amazon has. I mean, Amazon has a store where you put all the things in your basket, and then when you walk out the door, there's RFID readers at the door that are charging you for the items in your basket. And this same technology is what we've applied in Muskoka and our software that we sell outside Muskoka. It really is, it hasn't advanced that much in our industry. We've really sort of been pushing it. And now we've been successful at implementing it in some other companies, and it's starting to take off.
Yeah, as you say, sort of like, yeah, absolutely. As you say, like it's sort of moving towards the future, and it's not just Amazon. I mean, I was on TikTok the other day, and there's a company in the UK called M&S. I don't know if you know it, a very popular company in the UK, that does groceries, etc. But they now have this as well, a scan as you go kind of thing, and it just gets charged for what's in your basket. Not quite the same technology, because you have to scan everything, and it's not quite, it drops in your basket but scans everything automatically. Yeah. But it does seem like a lot of aspects, a lot of retail is moving towards that kind of world. Do you see the manufacturing, such as what you guys are doing, heading towards there as well? Obviously, I know it's something you're pushing, and you're saying that it's taking people a while to sort of catch on, but do you really see the future heading towards that direction then?
I do. There are some barriers that we've tried to overcome so that it can become more commercialized in our industry. For instance, and this relates to the new finishing line that FedDev helped us fund, that we brought in. Labels on parts or clothing or food items is pretty easy. If you need to run these parts in our industry, say through a finishing line, you can't have an exposed label on it, because you're going to spray over it, and it just doesn't work. So we've had to invent technology. Now we have, well, we've been doing it for a few years now, but we have RFID insertion, where we actually insert the RFID tag inside the edge of a part. All of our, like we were showing the finishing line here, inside these doors, they're all smart doors. So they have RFID tags embedded in those panels. You can't see them.
Like literally in the wood?
Yes, yes, exactly. And we created the machinery and the technology. We've got patents pending on this technology that allows us to insert tags inside wood.
Well, again, like Luke, we're talking about things that are sort of leaps and bounds beyond what I ever considered, the handmade cabinet industry to kind of be like. So yeah, that takes us on, I think, nicely. We'll talk about the FedDev investment now, as we saw popped up on the screen before, for those watching it on YouTube rather than listening to this on Spotify. But $625,000 investment into your company. Can you talk about, there was mentioned a couple of other things in there, such as the creation of 7 jobs and the increasing overall productivity by 50%. What is this investment specifically going to be used towards?
It's going to be used towards purchasing the equipment. This finishing line is a big part of it. The finishing line is actually about a $2 million investment. Most of the FedDev funding is being used for the finishing line. Some of it's being used for our upgraded robotic panel processing cell as well, but the majority is the finishing line. And this finishing line, there's only 2 of them. This is our robotic panel processing cell. Mm-hmm. Some of the funding did go towards this cell. We also get quite a bit of funding from IRAP. I don't know if you're familiar with, that's the NRC's technology funding, boosting investments that they grants that they give to companies to advance in technology.
Okay, great. And so the acquisition of technology, would it really have been possible for you without this kind of investment? As you said, you've come leaps and bounds, you've been pushing things forward. As we said, this is over a $600,000 investment, but you're saying the finishing line's coming up to a $2 million price in total. So how important was actually having this governmental support to be able to help companies such as Muskoka Cabinet Company to really push forward in their own industry?
Well, it's extremely important because in the scheme of things, we're relatively still a small business. And what government funding allows us to do is just to go a little bit beyond. We won't hesitate sort of pushing the envelope. What can we do? When we were shopping for this finishing lines are, they're not uncommon, but when we got into replacing our existing finishing line with this new one, we were looking at what can we do to make it even more productive? What bells and whistles? What? And of course, these extra bells and whistles cost money. Software development, extra hardware development, and the funding allows us to just take it that extra step.
Absolutely, and one of the points that we're sort of touching on there, talking about taking that extra step, is that it will create 7 new jobs. One of the great things in the press release was it wasn't just creating 7 new jobs, but it's also 7 very specialized and highly skilled jobs. So there is obviously a greater income for those people who are hired in that sense. But if they aren't entry-level jobs, you're going to need people have certain skills. So are you going to really be able to acquire these people from the local region, or are you going to have to be looking further afield for people with kind of specific skills to be able to take on those new roles?
Well, it's very difficult to hire in this region or anywhere. Our industry is not looked at as glamorous. And so what we've been trying to achieve, and thank you very much for having me today, because this is very important that we get a chance to promote that there are actually some really interesting jobs, and in Alfred, we're considered one of the, for our size, we are the most advanced cabinet manufacturing business in the world. And it's very difficult to, especially now, there's a huge labor shortage. And we have to do whatever we can, and we try and get the government agencies to on board. They're well aware that they need to promote, and probably starting from the high school level on, to sort of make this industry a little bit more glamorous. I mean, we have a lot to offer in terms of learning technology and high-tech jobs, but the other thing too is there just isn't that much interest in labor-intensive mundane jobs where you're just putting, a panel from here to here. It's not very interesting. So what we do with the automation is, and it's always a catch-22 in terms of hiring people, because people look at robotics and automation while you're taking away jobs, but that's not the case. The case is we're actually creating jobs because it allows us to grow as a company and provide better paying, better quality jobs that people will be interested in actually, having a career at Muskoka on the factory floor. So the idea of creating jobs may not be specifically on the factory floor, but I mean, we have a lot of people in the company doing many other jobs that will need to be, as the company grows, there'll still be positions that you can't fill with robots and automation. So, and we're also, automation, and we have a policy in Muskoka, we don't lay people off because we bring in more and more automation. We don't do that. And we want the employees to embrace it and look at it for what it is for themselves, as, increasing their skills. If they decide to leave and go somewhere else, they've got some skills that they normally wouldn't have in a run-of-the-mill cabinet shop. So,
no, so that's a really interesting point. You're kind of touching on exactly where I was going to go next with this. These 7 jobs that are being created, a lot more on the sort of the technology that's going to be used, and being able to operate, implement, look after it. Is that where these 7 jobs are really going to be coming from?
Well, that too, but we also create, in the local economy, we're constantly creating more and more work for electricians and service people, and these machines need to be serviced, and so there's a ripple effect. But the jobs that are really going to come from the FedDev investment are going to be as the company grows, accounting positions, purchasing positions, installation, delivery, marketing, sales, designers. We are, in our small footprint in Alfred, we output 3 times the industry average per square foot per employee. And putting this technology allows us to grow without even increasing our footprint. More output, just leads to more jobs, more purchasing of even local materials. We try to buy locally, and as we grow, everything around us grows.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. Obviously, when you just read it at face value, you just assume that these 7 jobs are being created by the implementation as technology. So it's specifically to do with what's being implemented. And it's not really like this overall increase in productivity by 50% clearly indicates a growth in the company, and therefore other jobs in other sectors of the company become necessary. You need more manpower to fill them. And you make a really interesting point about why these FedDev investments are so important in our local companies, because not only is it doing something internally for you, but it's also then being able to go out and, as you say, you're bringing in electricians to maybe fix something. You're creating more work for other people in other sectors in the region too. So very good to hear. It was one of my big questions when there was the big word was like going to reduce the manual labor side of things, but we're creating 7 more jobs. And I was like, well, a lot of people do still do the manual labor kind of thing, but there's no one being laid off with this recent investment and new technology coming in.
No. I mean, you know, the bottom line is we do have a labor shortage for these types of jobs. So really, we need to start thinking about how technology will make better paying, more interesting jobs to attract people into the industry. That's how we're going to survive and grow and be successful and compete on a world stage. You know, and of course, coming from that, as I mentioned, you just reiterated, was more jobs in other aspects.
Yeah, and Luke, one of the other things I wanted to touch on there was when we talked, you mentioned sustainable earlier as well. I forgot to actually ask you when we were going through Muskoka as a company. I was looking into the first introducing Woodstock. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? I believe like the particle board made from unused wheat stalk as a green alternative. So how important is it to be environmentally and like sustainable and green friendly like that for the company?
Well, it starts within the company. We don't want our employees handling dangerous goods. And back in 2005, we were one of the first companies in North America to introduce water-based finishing on our cabinet line, both stain, a complete package of stains and top coats. I mean, back then, a lot of companies were doing, say, a water-based clear coat on top, but the staining wasn't water-based. So we saw, you know, back then with the introduction, you know, the board you were talking about, water-based finish products, it more or less started from within, that we wanted a safe environment for our employees. Our employees tend to stay a long time. We have very low turnover at Muskoka. And I think a lot of this has to do with how we pay attention to safety and health. And of course, that extends out to the marketplace when they hear that we're doing it. I mean, some people are very allergic to chemicals that are in some of the particle boards. And we had, you know, in the past, we've had people reach out from, you know, like Florida, saying, you know, I'm allergic, I'm interested in your product. You know, can we order a kitchen from you?
Yeah, I mean, like that's crazy how far afield you're reaching just by sort of changing the way in which the process is done. You mentioned there's about the labour shortage here locally as well, and you talk about trying to keep people on, and really interesting that not just doing it for an environmentally friendly reason, but also, as you say, about making the best working environment for the employees as well as making it a very attractive option going forward to maybe to some consumers, as you just iterated with the Florida example. So in terms of local labour, in terms of getting more local people involved in these jobs, you mentioned earlier it was a little bit difficult. What kind of things do you think can be done more in our region, in the township of Alfred, Plantagenet, in like the whole general United Counties of Prescott, Russell, to really try and show how many good jobs there are for people who maybe want to stay closer to their homes?
Well, there's a few things, and you know, what you're doing today is one. Just promoting the fact that we have some pretty sophisticated local businesses that would be, you know, interesting to work at. The major thrust, I believe, needs to come from the education system earlier on, you know, at the high school level, doing more to promote industries that we have and the benefits of the manufacturing industries, the benefits in terms of employment and what's available. I mean, I often hear, you know, we had no idea I mean, we pass your building every day. We see the building we had no idea what was inside there. I mean, it's fascinating. You know, we have automated ground vehicles, robotics. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
I mean,
we just need to educate people.
Exactly. I never would have imagined any of this stuff was like literally in Alfred around the corner from us. You don't really think about this, like, because again, I don't think I even mentioned it earlier, but this investment that's coming from FedDev, the technology you're able to use, it's a first in Canada as well. No other company is utilizing it. So Luke Elias, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Giving us your time to discuss a little bit about this, to answer a few of my queries as well. Whenever I see job creation, I always get worried about the jobs that are going away in the meantime. So that's hopefully that's very reassuring. Hopefully it also shines a little bit of light on some of the other local businesses in our region that people could be interested in. So Luke, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Thomas. Pleasure.
And for everyone listening, watching, whatever platform you're consuming it on, thank you very much for joining us for this latest episode of Uncovered by TVC 22. If you have a local business that you would like to promote, a local story you would like to tell, if there's something you just think is important and needs more light shined on it, then you can reach me by email at nouvelle@tvc22.ca, or just give us a ring at the station here, TVC 22 in Clarence, Rockland. So that was Luke Elias, the president of the Muskoka Cabinet Company. Luke, once again, thank you very much, and thank you for watching.
You're very welcome.